All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good day. Good afternoon, wherever you may be. This is Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy, and we are webcasting live from the headquarters, the worldwide headquarters of Trade Show Guy exhibits in Salem, Oregon, where unbelievable, but it really snowed last night. Here it is, the 6th of March in Oregon, in the Willamette Valley, and we have an inch to an inch and a half of snow on the ground. That just flabbergasts me to no end, simply because it just doesn't happen. We've had one of those winters this year, which just won't quit. It keeps going and going and going and going and going. Anyway, I want to wish you good morning, and if everything is going correctly, we are getting back to the camera away from the screen share. There we go. Okay, good morning to you. So I'm heading down tomorrow to Expo West, Natural Products Expo West in Anaheim, a huge show. Last year, I think they had like 3,500 exhibitors, 70,000 plus attendees. It was just a humongous show. And Trade Show Guy Exhibits has a number of clients there. I've actually lost count over the years. We keep adding more. We have 3 new ones this year, though. We'll talk about next week because I'm going to leave it to them to debut their booths. We'll put press releases out and all that fun stuff next week. But it's their time to debut. I wasn't going to steal any of their thunder. We'll just let them debut their new booths. We have a 10 by 30 and a couple of 10 by 20s, which are going up, which were fun projects over the fall and early winter, and just shipped last week or the week before. So fun stuff. That's Natural Products Expo West. I'll be down there helping set up or supervise or something and meeting more people. You know, I got to talking with some folks last week about, here's a couple things. First of all, Webinar Jam is changing, and I'm not entirely sure exactly how. They're moving away from Google Hangouts to where you'll just be able to go straight live to YouTube. Google Hangouts, I guess, is going away, or you can no longer be a part of that. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but that'll happen in April, sometime towards the end of next month. And so that means everyone who's signed up for all of these webinars will no longer get notifications because we got to start a new one and on the new platform. And however this works, we're still figuring it out. But then I got to talking with the guy who said, you should just go Facebook. Just do your Monday morning coffee on Facebook. And if you want, put it out as a podcast. So I thought, that's not a bad idea because, frankly, there's probably more people that would run across this on Facebook. It stays live there as well. I mean, you can do the replay. Not a problem. And it's very easy to do. And then do standalone webinars when I have guests, not on a regular schedule, but whenever that happens. Because we do have the website, TradeshowGuyWebinars.com, which is where a lot of folks go to sign this up. So that's all in consideration. This is, of course, kind of the home office of Trade Show Guy Exhibits. We do all sorts of fun stuff. We help exhibitors that are frustrated with the booths that don't set up very well or frankly look like a train wreck. That's actually one of our recent clients told us our previous booth looked like a train wreck, and we are so in love with the new booth. So we love helping out people like that. Today, I thought I'd discuss questions. Now, questions are interesting, and it wasn't too long after I got into business, into radio. I probably heard, but once I got into business. In the sales end of the trade show world, and then, of course, with my own company 5.5, 6 years ago, which I kept hearing, you should ask better questions. If you ask better questions, you'll get better answers, and you'll get more things accomplished. Now, Voltaire, 1600s, 1700s, said, "Judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers." Voltaire said that. And I think knowing what questions to ask give you an edge. It gives you power. Not knowing what questions to ask leaves you wanting. So how do you determine what questions to ask? I did some research. We thought about it, did some writing. Something I've been trying to figure out my whole life. How do you ask the right questions? So in general, I thought it would be fun to look at questions from 3 perspectives: business leadership, trade show floor engagement, and sales. So Dale Carnegie, in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is, nearly 80 years old now, wrote, "Effective leaders ask questions instead of giving orders." open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions. So I spent a lot of time in radio, and for a while I filled in and did talk show hosting. And I tell you what, open-ended questions, you need them in radio when you're doing a talk show. Because if you ask yes and no questions, which are closed-ended questions, the conversation won't go very far. So you ask how and what and when and give me more reasons. What's your opinion on that sort of thing. So it's one of the first things I learned about asking better questions. So, excuse me. Must be needing more coffee here. That's what I need. Very good coffee. So, found an article on Lifehack, which was interesting. Before asking questions, you must know what you want for an answer. You won't know the answer, but you must know what you want for an answer. So do you want, for instance, a fact? You want someone to give you a factual answer? Do you want someone to give you an opinion? Or do you want someone to give you a well-reasoned judgment? Also, when you ask a question, someone gives you an answer, ask follow-up questions. What makes you say that? Can you tell me more about that? And then, of course, this is the one I love. Learn the power of silence. We all just want to rush in when there's a silence and fill it up with something. In fact, many of us, when we're listening to somebody, we're not really listening, because what we're doing is figuring out how, especially in a conversation, how to respond to what they're saying. That's very common, and that makes you a poor listener. So if you are a good listener, you will then figure out what your next question should be. So ask the question and then shut up, let the other person take his or her time. And when they're talking, don't interrupt. From an article in Fast Company magazine nearly 2 years ago, the author Stephanie Vazza says we should do 5 things when phrasing questions. We should think about questions that should empower. Questions should create inclusiveness. Questions should challenge assumptions, more from the business world. Questions should cause the person you're asking to stretch a bit. Think about it. Questions should encourage breakthrough thinking. I also ran across a TED Talk, which I'm going to put a link in the show notes for that as well. So on the trade show floor, when you are in a booth and visitors come up, attendees come up, and you're engaging with them, having a great question or a great series of questions really will empower you, and it'll help qualify and disqualify people that come through. And it gives you an edge over a lot of other exhibitors who may not think about the right questions. I went back to the blog, TradeshowGuy blog, in December of 2015, and I'll also link to this. I offered some suggestions from Andy Sachs of Spark Presentations on how to engage visitors at trade shows. And he discussed the various kinds of questions you might ask visitors, and he broke them down into sections. You should ask, first of all, a qualifying question, that has to do with your product, so that sort of helps discern if they are, in fact, a potential client of yours or a customer. Ask a collection question, which is gathering information. Then finally, you ask a confirmation question, which, if you have a follow-up to go, you confirm that sort of thing. So there are a lot of questions that go into engaging with people in a trade show world. One other thing I want to share with you before we wrap it up today is Sandler sales training. I've been going through Sandler sales here for the last 5 or 6 months. Has it been that long? It was August. It was September. September, October, November, December, January, February. Yeah, this is the 6th or 7th month. My goodness. And I'm learning a lot, having a lot of time. But we focus a lot on questions. When you're in the process of selling to someone, you'll come across similar approaches to being on the trade show floor, greeting attendees. You go through a lot of things, bonding and rapport, qualifying questions. You ask questions about budget to make sure they're qualified. You help them make a decision, and you fulfill the sale. All these questions are critical to part of the process. Perhaps the most important, though, would be during the qualification process. You determine and help them determine if, in fact, they are a good fit for what you offer and you are a good fit for what they want. And so that has to do with a lot of questions. If your prospect doesn't qualify to purchase, a green salesperson, and I was one of those for a long time, would keep trying to sell them something when, in fact, it was a waste of their time and your time. You must, at that point, determine when they're not qualified for one reason, whether they don't have the money, they don't have a need for it, they don't have the pain that you can fulfill by, you can alleviate by offering your product. Then you need to move on to the next prospect instead of just trying, and then you get into this buyer-seller dance, which you're not really aware of because you're not knowing what you're doing. So that way you're not wasting your time with there. So unfortunately, someone who's not well-trained misunderstands what's happening and is probably not asking good questions. So confirmation questions. Once the answer is complete, you spend a moment to confirm that what you understand them to say is what they really meant. So you say to them, let me make sure I understand you. What I heard you say is, and then you repeat back to them what you think you heard. They'll either confirm or clarify. So, questions. Questions are very important. Questions are good. You need good questions to get an edge in this business world and to actually be someone that engages well with other people by just learning to ask good questions. So that's exactly what you need to do. Study asking questions. Learn to ask better questions. I want to wrap it up with one good thing, which we do every week. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. In fact, about this time, I'll be loading on a plane in Portland at the Portland International Airport. And so I thought I'd mention the one good thing is the Portland International Airport. It's a great airport, always gets top ratings, one of the best in the country. And it's, they tore out the carpet here last year or the year before, and it was an iconic carpet. They put something down that was similar, but people would go to the airport, and when they were coming and going, they would take pictures of their feet on the carpet and post it on Instagram. I saw that so many times. It's a great airport, lots of great restaurants, places to stop and browse. They take good care of you. So I'm going to say the Portland International Airport is the one good thing that we'll mention on today's Trade Show Guy Monday morning coffee. And stay tuned. Maybe we'll move this over to Facebook in the next month or two and turn into an actual audio podcast with post-production music and the whole thing. Who knows? Right now, though, I appreciate you watching, listening, and whether you're listening live or whether you're watching this on a replay, much appreciated. I'm Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy. Maybe I'll see you in Expo West this week.